Well, howdy there, folks. James from Political Friar coming at you again. Today, I want to talk about the Rafah crossing and how it gives us some insight into what's going on between Israel, Hamas, and the other folks who have interests in this war. The Rafah crossing is the only border point of entry and exit between Gaza and Egypt that Israel doesn't control. It was the primary source for supplies to enter into Gaza from Egypt for the last decade or so since Hamas took over. Israel has worked with Egypt to prevent a lot of goods from entering Gaza to prevent Hamas from doing basically what Hamas has managed to do. It was only through smuggling that we ended up having Hamas being armed with these rockets and these guns. It was the Rafah crossing that was supposed to be the conduit for food and medicine and fuel. And it was until Israel bombed it and bombed it again. And the Rafah crossing is now closed. And that's part of Israel's strategy, of course, to blockade and to put Gaza under siege. Israel doesn't want food, medicine, fuel to get to Gaza. Thankfully, Israel has apparently not cut off the water to Gaza, although it could. That's a escalation that's waiting. But the Rafah crossing closing is important because the crossing goes both ways. It's also the only way out. If Gazan civilians want to leave, want to get out of the way of the fighting that's coming, they got to go through the Rafah crossing. And this is probably the reason why Israel hasn't invaded Gaza yet. Because there's a ton of conversations going on in the background about how Israel's going to be limited in its attack. And see, Israel's not going to use everything at its disposal in this war. It's going to be constrained by other actors. Egypt is going to say its piece. Saudi is going to say its piece. America is going to say its piece. And all of those actors are going to tell Israel to please minimize collateral damage. Collateral damage is a euphemism, for civilian casualties. And so that's where the Rafah crossing negotiations come in. See, one of the best ways to minimize civilian casualties for Israel would be to let the civilians run away. And closing the crossing makes that impossible. Now the negotiations are almost certainly ongoing. Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister for the United Kingdom today, called on Israel to open the crossing to allow humanitarian supplies in and civilians out. Well, Israel will probably be okay with the second one, the civilians out. It's not okay with the first one. But there are negotiations happening. And until those negotiations are finished, they're not going to come to an agreement. Israel's not going to agree to be limited, but it will listen and it will limit itself. Until those negotiations are finished, you probably aren't going to see a ground incursion. So, if you're watching for when Israel sends the troops in, watch for the Rafah crossing to start having some action. Watch for it to be open to limited, at least, exits, because that's about the same time that you're going to see the entrance of Israeli soldiers. And so that is our little indicator of what's going on. Israel will invade. Civilians will be killed. Netanyahu's called every Hamas member a dead man. It's going to get ugly, folks. But if you're looking to see indications of when, where, and how bad it's going to be, that border between Gaza and Egypt, that's where I'd focus. That's where I will. Anyway, that's just my take. Tell me how wrong I am down in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It really helps. If you want me to keep doing this and chatting to y'all, well, that's the way to encourage me. I appreciate it. Thanks.